What can you tell me about your relationship with Bret? We haven't talked much about Bret yet. I mean, growing up, were you guys close? Talk to me about what it was like to be the brother of the Hitman.
Well, I was 3 years younger than Bret, and we grew up. We got along pretty well. There's 8 boys in my family, so there's kind of a descending order from Smith, my eldest brother, to Owen, who's the youngest. But I hung out a lot with Bret, my brother Dean, who's 3 years older than Bret. So they were kind of my idols, and I did a lot of things with them. So some of it wasn't always around wrestling, but we did a lot of different things. When Bret had finished high school and he'd done very well as an amateur, he had become provincial champion in Alberta. He was at a pivotal point in his career, and I don't think at that time he had thought about going into wrestling, but I think he realized maybe there was that opportunity. He'd initially gone into graphic arts, and he was thinking of maybe becoming like a movie director. And Bret was an incredible artist. I don't know if you've seen some of his drawings and cartoon sketches, but he had thought about going in that direction. And then this was when my dad's promotion had really gone down, and there it was a tough time for our family and our promotion, because we'd lost a lot of money, and it didn't look like there was going to be opportunities for our family with Stampede Wrestling, because my dad was just losing so much money. But Bret started training with these two Japanese guys, Mr. Hito and Mr. Sakurada, who had been established stars for my dad, and really good workers, really good trainers. They had both trained in the dojos in Japan, and had been sumo wrestlers as well, and just had an incredible work ethic. And my dad asked them to teach Bret, because he was so busy, running the promotion, and they were working out with him 3-4 days a week in the dungeon, usually before and after some of the road trips. And Bret just seemed to be a natural. He was just picking up what they were teaching him, and and it was very hard, regimented work. But he just seemed to be a natural, and then he broke in a few months later, and I think it was one of those situations where somebody else was injured, and Bret was kind of thrown in that position, and put in the ring, and had some really good matches. And right away, we knew he had that potential. With a few of the heels that were working with him just said, he's a natural. He listens well. He's got really good timing. Knows what he's doing. So I was just very proud of Bret. Because if he hadn't gone into wrestling, I'm not sure if his fortunes would have worked out so well. I think he would have done all right. But wrestling is where he really succeeded. It gave him a great lifestyle, and he was able to prove himself. It was not easy. Being a son of Stu, there was a lot of expectations and doubts, about how he could perform, because there are a lot of promoters whose kids had broken into wrestling, and they weren't very good workers, and I won't single them out or identify them. Bret was really an exception to that. He was, he had my dad's passion and inspiration, and his support, but he also just learned well from so many guys he worked with. He learned well from Leo Burke. He learned well from Dynamite Kid. He learned well from Hito and Sakurada, who you'd go on to have some great matches with. So I was just very proud of Bret, and then his career just took off from there. And the true indication to me that he was proven stars, that he did well in other promotions. He'd work in Amarillo, Texas. He worked in Puerto Rico. He worked in New Zealand. He worked in Germany. He worked in the UK. He did numerous tours of Japan, and paid his dues, and did so well. And I think the second test for Bret, in his career, is when my dad closed down in 1984. It was make or break time for Bret, because there was so much competition in the WWF at that time, and initially he floundered there. They weren't doing very much with him as a baby face, and at one point he was pretty serious about just quitting and giving up, and and then when they came up with this idea of turning him heel and pairing him up with Jim Neidhart to work with the Bulldogs, who they had just brought in, it just showed Bret could be very adaptable, and he had worked babyface pretty much his whole career, other than working in Japan as a heel. But and this was a big test for him, and he had to step up to that role, and that's where his rapport, I guess, and his history with Dynamite and Davey really worked out, because they had grown up in the Stampede promotion and had so many matches against each other there and in Japan. They just set the WWF on fire, but Bret really was a catalyst there, and it jump started his career, and and then he went on to have tremendous success, and and then years later made the transition from tag team wrestling to singles, and filled that void, I guess, after Hulkamania and Ultimate Warrior and the Macho Man had basically had their runs there, and Bret now was put in that position, first winning the Intercontinental title and then the World Heavyweight title, and and I think proved himself, and he was just a great technician in the ring, and had consistently good matches with everybody he worked with, and it was great to see that he had an opportunity to work with Owen. It was such a novel concept of brother against brother rivalry, and it was great. It kind of jump started Owen's career at that time, and gave him a whole new role, as Bret's jealous younger brother and sibling rival, and they went on to have some incredible matches, and it was great for both of them.
Yeah, my buddy Tommy Fierro runs 80s Con, and earlier in the month he had a convention, and Bret was the headliner. Bret had a line. And when I say a line, I mean around the building for the entire 4 hours of the convention. Then Bret stayed an extra 2 hours just to sign the autographs for the people. And I'd say every third person, they weren't just there, hey, Bret, can you sign this? They were crying. Like, it was, I've never seen anything like that. My buddy runs a lot of conventions. He has a lot of big names, but like, there was such an emotional, real connection with your brother. Like, I'm telling you, every third person, when they met Bret, was crying. It was unbelievable. I never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I heard too, Michael, from other sources too, that there were longer lineups to see him than any other wrestler, and they had some very big names there as well. But that's just a testimony to Bret's appeal, I think, with fans, and he's always been someone who appreciated fans and their support. All the fan letters they sent to him, and how they supported him through the good and the bad times, with the WWF, and even with the Montreal screw job, and then going to WCW, and then his career unfortunately ending there after the concussions he suffered. But the proof is in these fan sessions and WrestleComs where he goes, and he constantly draws hundreds and hundreds of people, who want to get an autograph picture with him or share some memories with him. And I think that's very inspirational to him, that he's still very well thought of by a lot of those fans, and he's never outgrown them. Even though he had his role, over 20 years ago, and he's still very much remembered, and loved by fans. And it's interesting. It doesn't matter whether it's the U.S. or Canada or UK or Germany, and he doesn't travel that much far, but he occasionally does some overseas tours in Europe, and he still has incredible fans, who come out to see him at these sessions and talk about how much they love their match, loved his matches, and that's pretty gratifying to him. Michael, it was a pleasure for me to be on your show, and you asked some very candid questions. It brought a lot of great memories back from the Stampede promotion. But Bret's son Dallas has kind of launched a new promotion here. It's called Dungeon Pro Wrestling. They've had about 5 shows in Calgary over the last year, and it seemed to be really catching on. They've been getting big crowds, and it's I think one of the best independent promotions going in Canada right now. But hopefully the promotion can spread to Edmonton and Saskatoon and Regina, and maybe other centers in Western Canada, even Vancouver and Winnipeg. But right now they're just getting established in Calgary, and some of their shows have been online as well. And I think it's just an incredible promotion. My nephew Harry Smith has been wrestling on those shows as well. And Bret's been involved, I guess, behind the scenes, but he's certainly supported Dallas in this bid, and I hope it's a new promotion, that's able to kind of bring back wrestling on a higher level. It's certainly more of an emphasis on real wrestling and characters in the ring. It seems to be more of a traditional style, and yet it's very progressive. And we've had some really good talent working on shows here. So I think the Dungeon promotion is just going to get bigger and bigger, and hopefully it's established all across Western Canada in the next year.